went back in deep. These have been like an emotional couple days, and I think for me it really culminated with the Pascal Siakam trade, because it made me realize, like, holy smokes, the team I love is a completely different team. Starts with Fred, OG, Precious, Malachi, and now Pascal Siakam. And it can be like absolute hell when your favorite players get traded. The good news is this video is not so much about the hell, but the back. Just like Bruce Brown, I think, is going to want his $10K back from Jonte Porter for paying to wear number 11, which Jonte had just gotten, by the way. Now, please don't get me wrong. I think Bruce Brown is a player that leads to winning. He did it with the Nets. He clearly did it with Denver last year when they hoisted a chip. He's now got a ring on his finger. He was instrumental in keeping the Pacers going the last couple weeks with Halliburton out. He's an awesome player, and we're lucky to have him. The thing is, I don't think they intend to keep him. So in today's video, we're going to explore Bruce's contract, why it's so attractive to a certain sector of the NBA population, and what the Raptors might do with Bruce and some of the other things that we got back in our trades. The local media coverage on this has been decent. There's an all right piece by Blake Murphy, and I think it uses numbers that are old school from the fall. I think we can be a little more accurate with our projections. It is a good piece, and he explains it, but he doesn't go far enough. It's kind of superficial, which makes sense because the trade just happened and I got a couple days off to actually look at this stuff full tilt. I'm also going to maintain that this is not a full blow it up. If Masai and Bobby have their way, we are not going back to the dark ages of a Sam Presti style rebuild. But we have an opportunity this year to do something crazy. And after you're done this video, you're going to be able to go out and run some trade machines and see what you think you can come up with. I want to hear about them in the comments below, because not only am I going to take a look at the contract, we're going to take a look at the CBA, and in particular 2 CBA rules that definitely matter for us as the Raptors go to shop Bruce Brown and other players from our team. I also went on a bit of a tangent messing around with animation, so you're going to get a little minor animation for me. And everything from this video, the Brown contract, the CBA rules, is going to set us up for my next video when we take a look at what I consider to be the holy grail, the white whale of what we could pull off this summer to get ourselves back on track. Because as I've maintained the entire time, I don't think they're blowing things up. I think they're trying to like maybe take it back a year or two, but never have to quite go back to a Sam Presti, Raphael Stone, Jeff Weltman rebuild. I think they're avoiding it like the plague. But as you'll see in this video and the next one, there's some really crazy things we can do. So I hope you enjoy the video. When I'm dealing with the CBA, I always like to say to you guys, hey, did I miss anything? Let me know in the comments below. Now let's take a look at Bruce's contract and see if it's the key to getting us back out of hell.
Yeah. I remember I was all alone. Late night you would call my phone just to check if I was blessed, cause you knew I was low. Head gone rolling off.
After Denver won their first chip last year, I remember thinking Bruce Brown and Jeff Green especially were going to get paid. There's Thomas Bryant and whatever, but we knew these guys were going to get paid because of how well they played. And that always happens to these role players who help their teams get to the next level in the dance. But I also remember thinking that Buchanan and Pritchard had overpaid Bruce. But ever since we made the Siakam trade, I've been realizing more and more that these guys deserve like a gold medal. This contract is such a smart contract for a team that had cap space last summer and used it insanely wisely to invest in a player that can change your fortunes. Okay, so here's Bruce's contract, and it's kind of like the Fournier contract that everyone wants us to go get in New York, except this one's tied to Bruce Brown and not Evan Fournier. Now, this is a pretty obscure channel, so if you're watching this, I'm sure you've already looked into Bruce's contract because people are diehard around here. And what's similar about Fournier and Brown's contract is that they have something rare on them by today's NBA standards, and that's that the second year is a team option, not a player option. So there's flexibility here. So contingency plan for the Raptors this year will be to see how the team plays. Now, if the team plays well, they'll simply keep Bruce. He's got a ring on his finger, and we want this team not to be going to the dark ages. So winning around here is actually what we're trying to develop. We're not developing players first, we're developing winning first, and that's why we haven't done the Sam Presti thing. But the Raptors front office will explore the other option as well. Let's say Bobby calls around to all the other GMs this year. No one wants to play with him. There's another option. Do they just not renew him and be buyers, kind of like instantly becoming last year's Houston Rockets, and we saw what they can do? We as Raptors fans saw firsthand the power of liquid cash in free agency. This would instantly allow them to go and get one of the top-notch players or drive up the price on guys that are desirable like OG and Pascal. It would also allow them to, with very big security, obviously extend Gary and IQ if they're still around. But as I've already said, those are the contingency plans. The plan will be to shop champion Bruce Brown to a contending team. And this is where the reports from the media and some other channels that I've heard talk about it have become, and I'm not being mean here, superficial. They have not sufficiently explained why this particular type of contract on a particular type of champion player like Bruce Brown is especially attractive to playoff-bound teams in the East and West. It's obvious to all of us why Bruce would be interesting to any of the teams going to hopefully go to the playoffs this year. And here's the Western Conference. The X's are me. I'm playing around with trade machines, and I don't like those partners. They just don't work. If you're interested, ask me in the comments. I'll tell you why. So there's the West, and there's the East. But there's more to it with Bruce because they can take that money off of this year's playoff attempt and remove it before this summer if they want. And that would give them $20 million extra to extend players on their current roster rather than keep Bruce. Or they could just keep Bruce, because what matters to a lot of these teams, and these include teams with check marks, because a lot of the checkmark teams are teams that are not only interested in the services of a great guard who's got a ring, but they're also teams that are facing cap issues, not just in terms of being over the luxury tax, but in terms of penalties from being consistently over the first and second tax apron. And that's where Bruce becomes infinitely valuable, and that's what has not been articulated yet from any Raptors source that I've seen. So bank that one. We're looking not just for competing teams that want to shed salary. We're looking for teams that want to shed salary, and shedding Bruce's salary either this year or next would mathematically bring them in the year of their choosing to a point where they avoid the first or second tax apron and thus avoid penalties. That's who we're really looking for. That's who will value not just Bruce as the player, but Bruce and his agent, who were smart enough to sign this deal last summer. Okay, we're almost ready to run our trade machines. The last ingredient before we start our engines is a basic understanding of 2 CBA rules that pertain to moving Bruce and some of the other things that we picked up. 2 CBA rules for Raptors fans to know this trade deadline season. A, B, C, CBA. Now I know my CBA. The key to recovery from the Pascal trade. The first CBA rule we need to understand just what we have that we can market is definitely this Stepien Rule, and it has to do with all the draft picks we just got back. We're draft pick rich. Now, those of you who watched my reaction video to the Siakam trade know that my hunch is that we would move off of these picks in Bruce Brown, but we didn't have confirmation from Masai until yesterday.
In every draft that players found, I think in one of the worst drafts in the NBA history, maybe, Giannis Antetokounmpo and Gobert came out of that draft. Are we going to take 3 picks in that draft? I strongly doubt it. That's not the plan for now.
All right, thank you for refreshing our memories, Masai. And as Masai says, we're unlikely to hang on to all of them. So the rule is named after Stepien, who used to run the Cavs. And I thought I was going to have to make a little part of the video to explain to you the history of why they made this rule and what the rule is now, because it's not in its original form. But when looking for inspiration for that video, I came across a video by another channel called Clutch Points, who I already subscribed to. And the Clutch Points video is awesome. You have to go watch it in its entirety, so I'm going to link it right here. But for the purpose of this video, I'm going to do a little reaction section to an edited version of their video so that we get the Cole's notes. But again, I suggest that you go and watch their video in the entirety. And in the comments below, I want to show you just how much we all have in common, because I want to see everybody's grades for Stepien's moves that get reported in this video. Something tells me they're going to be similar to one another. All right, so don't forget to grade Stepien's moves in the comments for the purpose of educating ourselves regarding the Stepien rule so that we know just how valuable these picks can be. Here is the original Clutch Points video, or at least segments of it. Let's roll it.
Imagine being so bad at your job that your boss creates a rule to stop you from repeatedly screwing yourself over. Well, this happened to an owner in the NBA. I'm Frank Smith, and this is the story of Ted Stepien, a man who in 1981 destroyed the Cavs and changed the NBA forever.
This is fucking crazy.
The league had to make it illegal for him to trade draft picks without the league's approval. The exact wording of the rule is boring, so here's the translation and all you really need to know. You can't trade away your first-round draft picks if it leaves you without a first-rounder for back-to-back years.
Most of us understand
The wealthy
this.
businessman bought the Cavs in 1980
The history's
and
nuts.
immediately attempted to turn them into a playoff team. Instead of stockpiling draft picks for rebuilding, Stepien decided to sell all the draft picks he could for players that could contribute immediately.
Good
The
idea.
Clippers did it for 3 years of service from a perennial all-star. Stepien did it for scrubs. In the first year of Stepien's ownership, he traded the Cavs' 1982 first-rounder for Lakers guard Don Ford, who never averaged double-digit
Look what the
scoring
pick
his entire
became.
career. That first-round pick would become James Worthy. This was the first trade in what would become a fire sale of
It's like
Cleveland
Lakers
first-rounders.
dynasty.
The team sent their 83, 84, 85, and 86 picks to the Mavericks.
Look
Put
what
the
they
absurdity of
turned
those
out to
moves
be.
into context. They would become Sam Perkins, Derek Harper, Detlef Schrempf, and Dale Ellis. Someone had to save the Cavs from themselves, so the Stepien rule was put into effect. Eventually, the league did lift the trade ban. While the rule does exist, it can be bypassed with permission from the league. Technically, teams can send as many first-round picks out of town as they want, just as long as it's okay by the NBA.
So my reaction to that video, awesome. Stepien grade for me, guys, is an F. Let me know what you think in the comments. Great video, Clutch Points. The Clutch Points made this video as a reaction to the Clippers trade that brought Paul George in when the Clippers kind of broke the rule but got league approval to do so. And we have seen so many trades since. In fact, most ball fans can name which teams have all their draft picks missing and which teams have all those draft picks. What we just got from the Pacers is not only the cure for our own Stepien woes, because remember, we've traded away a couple #1 picks. Ours are now replenished, but we also have extras. So we have the ability potentially to go and offer these picks to teams that have gotten rid of their picks in blockbuster moves, not just because they might want to draft, but because it cures their Stepien problems and might give them some draft capital that they can actually move without the league reviewing their proposals. So the two trades we saw involving New York, that's a Precious Achiuwa trade and an OG trade, two trades, not one, established what kind of goals the Raptors had. And that's shed some salary, bring in players that fit Scotty Barnes' window, but we don't want rookies. We want established NBA players with upside that can play now. We got two starters for one, hence our new steady diet of barbecue. The Pascal to the Pacers trade is more like a trip to Asia from Toronto. You often have to stop over in another destination before ultimately getting to where you're going. So I'll illustrate it like this. We're going to start off in Toronto with our new #1 picks in Bruce Brown, and we're going to fly to Vancouver, drop off a couple picks to fix our own Stepien woes.
Stay humble,
and then
you
we're going
two.
to carry on to another destination with Bruce Brown and potentially some picks, because the same teams that are interested in the services and contract of Bruce Brown will also be interested in fixing their own Stepien woes via our surplus of #1 picks. So who are we likely to trade them to? Well, that brings us to our next CBA rule that we need to understand regarding the Bruce Brown contract. CBA rule number 2, the recently traded. Oh no! Save Cardi! Dun, 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 dun. Thanks, Masai! No problem, Scotty Barnes. Let's be superheroes together. Okay, great! Woof, woof. We already have a super dog, Grady. Duh, this isn't a dog. This is my cat, Milky.
What the fucking another flaming jet, Masai?
What's my name, Larry?
Giant of Africa, I thought we talked about the flaming planes.
You're the one that told me to keep Frozone happy, Lair.
Smash the plane, Larry.
Smash it, Larry. You gotta totally smash it, Mr. T. Yeah, T is for Tannenbaum, baby. A little bit of a labor of love just for you guys. Yeah, I was buzzing out. So anyway, the last CBA rule is easy. If you have recently traded for a player, like we have for Kira Lewis, Jordan Nwora, Bruce Brown, IQ, or Barrett, you can't trade them again unless they're by themselves. So if they're by themselves, you can trade them again, like in this one when using RJ. So here's an example where we package them up with Gary Trent Jr. It does not work, as you can see. But interestingly enough, there is a bit of a nuance, okay? So we can package them up with a bunch of #1 picks. Ooh, wow, if only we had some extra ones, right? But we can get slightly more creative than just packaging up those picks. We can even make three-way deals where we supply some money, another team supplies some money in the form of players, we take on expiring contracts, and remember, like the IQ and Barrett trade, we're looking for established players that aren't really getting a chance to play for the teams they're at now because they're behind somebody. We're looking for that. So in summary, here's your checklist for the next video when we go hunting for the white whale, the holy grail. We're looking for teams that want the services of a championship player like Bruce Brown. We're looking for the same teams to also be interested in lowering their cap positioning below an apron or below the luxury tax threshold itself, because they have to do that every so often to come up for financial air. Otherwise, they take penalties. And lastly, we're looking for teams that have Stepien issues. And finally, in order to facilitate all of this, we're looking for three-way deals so that we can get the right combination of expiring contracts and young, useful, experienced NBA players. Because a lot of the times the teams that have a desire to have a guy like Brown don't have the players we're interested or the expiring contracts we're interested, because they need those players to go to the playoffs in the first place. And that's it. If you're interested, you can stick around for After Chef's Kiss. Me and some buddies were down at the 905 game yesterday. There's a bit of a Kira Lewis spotting that I'm going to comment on after the credits here, and you can check that out. I'll also shout out one of our players down there that kicked some ass. I don't know if it showed it in the box score or not. I have no idea. Anyway, it is all about the Larrys, including the Mr. T, Mr. Tannenbaum. Peace, love, cheers.
This is Chef's Kiss approved. Mwah!
So while making this particular video, I actually had to kind of interlude and go with some buddies to go to the 905 game. I'm a season ticket holder there, as many of you know, and I seldom talk about the team on the channel. I thought I would today because it was the Delaware Bluecoats, and that means we have some Raptors alumni back. Champion Pat McCaw was back today, looked pretty good. We had Jeff Downton Jr. back, and I worked up the courage to shout at him and tell him, welcome back, but no buckets. He graced us with a wave and a smile, but he still continued to compete on the court, which I was not happy about, but you can't expect much else from Jeff. And lastly, Melvin Frazier, a 905 alumni, was back, and he hit a dagger 3 at one point. We were down 14 against a very tough veteran Bluecoats team and ended up coming back to win. My buddy I was with, Stewie, is 3 for 3 this year on games at the 905, so I got to keep taking them, because trust me, they only have 4 wins in the regular season. Stewie's been there for 3, so I got to keep taking them. Anyway, I thought you'd also be interested because Kira Lewis Jr., who we got from the Pelicans in our 3-team deal for Siakam, played tonight at the 905. I've seen him play for the Squadron, the Pelicans G League team, in the past, and he's a great ball player. But one thing I'll say is he knows how to defend. Like, he had an effect on both sides of the ball today, but just seeing him and paying attention to him more than I normally would, because we just got him from the Pelicans. I'll say this, the Pelicans draft the same way the Raptors traditionally do, with defensive first, and Kira is no joke. Like, he can play defense. He creates space for his shot well, but I think where he hasn't turned the corner from what I can see is when he goes strong to the basket, which he does do, he tends to fade away instead of like continuing and finishing with contact. And Freeman Liberty, I think, has maybe the same thing, although they're both getting better at it. Keep in mind, all of this constructive criticism comes from a slightly pot-bellied dude who only runs when someone chases him with a knife. As a defender, good player. So if he'll sign for less money than his $6 million a year, which I think he probably will, He's a good guy for the bench, I think. He could be really good. Certainly good size, all that stuff. The second player I want to mention is veteran Justice Winslow, who no player single-handedly wins a game, but I'm telling you, tonight, third and fourth quarter, Justice Winslow on the defensive end was incredible. My table, me and my buddies were getting him so far. We were yelling so hard on the offensive end, like, go strong, finish strong. He started dunking balls, and at one point he went up for a dunk, and he almost had the dunk, and it hit the back iron, bopped out. He literally looked at me like it was my fault that he missed. I felt freaking so guilty because we were like so into the game yelling. And these guys, of course, are used to the decorum of American basketball fans where you only cheer when certain things are happening. So we Canadians that grew up on hockey and championship Blue Jays teams, we're the heckling sort. The nice thing about being a 905 member is you do get some FaceTime with members of the team. So I will be sure to follow up with Justice and make sure he knows my bad on that dunk if indeed I psyched him out. We were so loud, man. But I'll tell you this, he would not have been going as strong to the bucket without us and a whole bunch of kids that we had excited around us going crazy. It was awesome. And I'll tell you, if Justice Winslow played with that much force, he would still be in the NBA right now, and he will get back to the NBA. He was a beast, guys. A fucking beast. I'm not sure if the box score will show up that he was a beast, but I promise you, Justice Winslow was an absolute beast. And if that rubs off on our young guys, not only will they get better, but Justice will be back in the NBA. Anyhow, I know 905 is not the subject of this video, but I figured you guys appreciate the sidebar, especially with Kyra playing tonight. I can mention so many other players. Get down to the 905 if you live anywhere close to there, guys. The tickets are so freaking worth it. Great game. I want to fill that place. Don't wait for the playoffs. Let's fill it up. That's how we're going to make the playoff, is get loud and make it tough on these freaking visiting teams.